All right, thanks, Rick. Okay, we got a couple minutes here for off script. This is one that I've thought about, and I think that I'm curious about your take on it. It's been a crazy year. I mean, there's been a lot happened this year, 2018. We're coming up to the end of it, of course, and I don't know that we're really going to have a chance to do an off script. We have some busy shows coming up, so this might be the last time we have a chance to really do it. So I wanted to ask you, like I say, we've seen so much this year, so much has happened. What this year in quality, in manufacturing, in business, in society in general, what surprised you this year? What did you see wherever, at IMTS or at CMSC, or and you went to France, or you went to Italy, right, this year, and you saw some
Scotland.
The other Italy. Always going somewhere.
The other Italy.
That's right. You went to Scotland. So I mean, you had a lot of experience to see different things this year. What surprised you? What jumped out at you when you think back at 2018? I've got some things, but what did you see that you thought about that really said this is different?
Well, I think there's two. I'm still intrigued with 3D printing and 3D printing with metals. And to me, and we saw some more at IMTS, is this additive manufacturing method, 3D printing, and doing it with metals and getting a surface finish that in some cases, depending on the application, doesn't need a finishing operation. In other words, they can 3D print a part, and depending on the application, sometimes very precise applications, just take the part out of the printer and use it. That's just kind of mind-blowing in a way to me. It's particularly the surface finish bit of it. And I've seen some surface finish parts where the surface finish looks very, very much like nickel. So it's not shiny, it doesn't look like, a polished piece of stainless steel, but it's pretty darn shiny. And that kind of surface finish is perfectly fine for a lot of applications. The other one is just kind of the quickly growing use of autonomous vehicles. I'm still intrigued with that, and that is growing by leaps and bounds. I still think it's growing faster than most people have thought it was. Is being accepted more and more. They just opened up in Arizona. I think Arizona, one of the rideshare companies is now officially using autonomous vehicles, and we're going to see, and that's. Couple companies have done that, but we're seeing that roll out more and more. So those kind of two things that really leap to mind for me.
I mean, the things that I thought about were one thing we talked about when we were in Chicago was the idea that we saw so many more robotics in the quality pavilion this year than we had in the past. And the continuing penetration of industrial Internet of Things into really quality 4.0, I guess, for lack of a better term, really into the quality function, test and measurement function. We're really seeing a lot more of that automation in there. The other thing is kind of analogous to your idea of the autonomous vehicles is the workforce. And I mean, when we think about autonomous vehicles, to me, I think about, all the jobs that are going to be going away from that, and automation really affects that really very much. And going back to Caroline Preston's story, this idea that, are we training young people to take to do the jobs of tomorrow? Are those jobs even going to be there? I mean, people can have the skills, but if the model changes so radically that doesn't matter what skills they have, because any human skill is not as good as a machine skill. Right. That's an issue.
Well, something you just said, and I didn't think about this when you were talking about Carolyn Preston's story. I know a few people. My niece is one. My director is another. I'm sorry, my nephew is one. Our director is another, who are, and I haven't actually talked to Chris about this, but I suspect, I know the case with my nephew, have moved their kids from public schools into, let's say, charter schools that specialize in technical fields. Now, part of that is just an interest in that, right? But the other thing is because I think, at least I know on my nephew's part, he knows that's where it's going. That's where the skill set is. So I mean, he's got a son who's really interested in technical stuff, and he's not getting that fulfilled at his regular public. In his public school, and that's where his interest is, and that's kind of where, the jobs are going to be in the future. And so he moved him into a charter school, and his kid's thriving and loves it, and he's learning all this techie stuff. And because that's kind of, charter schools all have usually they're centered around specific topics. That might be art, it might be tech, it might be whatever. It is, But I'm wondering if that is a trend. I'm wondering if more and more parents are moving their kids from public schools into charter schools. And if that's true, is that raising red flags for the public school system going, maybe?
Well, I mean, or are we creating a bifurcated educational system where the kids that can go to a charter school, can afford to, have the opportunities, get a better education than those that are in a public school?
In a public school.
Maybe in an urban environment. Yeah. It's an issue.
But it still says something to the public schools, is that, I mean, if this is indeed happening, and I've got 2 data points, so what do I know? But I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't a certain amount of that. And also just based what Carolyn said is, if the need is out there, it's got to be you got to start fulfilling that need earlier on, which means an increase in what you're covering in terms of practical stuff at the middle school and high school level.
Yeah, exactly. All right, good stuff there.
Yep.